that. They've had 0 offers on it. That's where I come in and backstop it, and we're gonna press forward and try to figure out, we're going to press forward and make it a great community, like we always do. So, we think we have a new partner that's available. They've been up here, looked at it, they love it. We actually, the Kinsley Group, which you all may know out of Pennsylvania, just recently rebid it, and it came.
Sir, could you speak up, please?
Sure. The Kinsley Group out of Pennsylvania recently rebid the project, and it came in at an acceptable price for us. So I think that bid came in at the end of March, so it's fairly recent. And we're hopeful to get started again probably in the fall. I'm open to any questions, be transparent, whatever you need to know. Sure. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Happy to take any questions. I'm sorry if you want me to repeat. Go ahead, sir.
You're getting started in the fall for a tentative opening in the spring?
It's gonna be tight. I don't wanna make any promises about that. Obviously, weather, conditions, tariffs, if you can tell me.
For opening next year?
We would love that, yes, absolutely.
You're still looking at, what, 424 sites, 419?
Yes.
Okay.
No, we don't plan any changes to the site plan that's been approved, however many years ago that it was, and, we like it the way it is. Go ahead.
The question is on the underground, that's all gonna be done prior to any, sites being approved or anything like that?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's full hookup, public water, sewer, electric, the roads will be improved. Reading Road, we have some work to do to that. That's part of the approval process, so all that's, plans to take place, absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I have a question. You have a considerable amount of PVC piping that's been over there for several years. Are you going to be replacing that since it's probably got a fair amount of ultraviolet damage?
It's a great question.
Yeah,
I mean, if we had to replace it, that's the small, I mean, while
Okay.
it's all meaningful and it's all relevant, if it needs replacing, we're certainly gonna replace it. It's to the best interest of not only us as a development, but also the community at large. So yes, if it's, then we'll have an engineer take a look at it. If it needs replacing, we'll do it.
Great, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, anybody else, any other questions? Tim, do you have anything to add, sir? No? Okay.
Tim's been wonderful. He's been a great partner. Constantly asking for updates. Been a great communication and a great leader for the fort.
All right, thank you. Doesn't look like there's any other questions. Anything comes up, can we just channel them through Tim and he can reach you that way?
Would love that, absolutely.
Okay.
And I'll come back anytime you want. I'm grateful for the opportunity to go first. I have a 13-year-old daughter waiting home for me, and I gotta get all the way back to Berlin, Maryland. So, thank you very much,
Yes,
Mr. Mayor.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Graciousness.
All right, now we're gonna go back in order again, so we're gonna go up to the police report, Chief Henderson.
Yes, sir. Mayor, council, city staff, and those in attendance, I'd like to present the police report for the month of April. Starting with our crime view map on page 1, in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a simple assault and a vehicle theft pinpoint. Both of those will be covered in detail in significant events. The simple assault to the lower left of those incidents was not an assault, should have been reclassified. The investigation revealed no signs of an assault and the claims were unfounded. You go across the Branch Canal and southeast of that incident, there's a green larceny pinpoint. That was a theft of a chainsaw that was left unattended for a brief period of time in the late afternoon to early evening hours. If you move down and to the left, the weapons offense and simple assault will also be touched on in significant events. The green larceny below the simple assault was a misdemeanor theft. There's currently an ongoing investigation. The vandalism pinpoint that is next to the larceny was a report of rocks being thrown at a residence. There's currently no suspect information. This is similar to an incident from last month within the mobile home community. If anyone has any suspect information, please reach out to one of our officers. And then the final bottom left corner, there's an orange intimidation pinpoint. That's an online harassment of a juvenile. The contact was made by an adult and has ceased, but we're still investigating the incident. Go to page 2, a graph for the monthly highlighted crime view incidents. The busiest day of the week was a Friday, and it looks like 4 p.m. was the busiest hour. For incidents, we had 70 incidents in April, compared to 59 in April of 2024. And year-to-date at the end of April was 247. Year-to-date at the end of April last year was 202. It's a 22.3% increase. We had 40 total traffic arrests, 5 warnings, 1 crime prevention check, 19 crime reports, 17 field service reports, 0 accidents, and 28 criminal arrests. For significant events, I'm going to pass on that first one for now. Go to the second one. Officer Webb responded to an assault involving 2 adult males where the victim sustained minor injuries. The suspect, a non-resident, was arrested for assault third and released on bail. Officer Williams and myself responded back to the residence 2 days later for a physical altercation between the two male residents. During this incident, one of the subject's property was damaged by the other. It was also brought to our attention via evidence that the victim, in this case, had threatened the suspect with a knife in February. Both parties were taken into custody. One was charged with 2 counts of misdemeanor criminal mischief, and the other for aggravated menacing and possession of a deadly weapon during the commission of a felony. The felony charges resulted in $21,000 cash bail and a trip to the Howard Young Correctional Institute. And then Officer Williams investigated an incident where a white male approached a juvenile black female and hugged and kissed her, causing her alarm. The incident allegedly involved a $20 bet, but resulted in charges of offensive touching and a hate crime because the race was an underlying factor. And if I may have Mr. Comer and Ms. Arguaza. 2 community service awards. Officer First Class Williams can correct me if I leave anything out. Last month in the early morning hours, I was called about a vehicle theft. It was like 6:40 in the morning. Officer Williams happened to be off that day, but as usual, she hears about it. We receive a video, just a simple ring video. Not a crime not a crime occurring or anything like that. It was a simple ring video of some subjects acting stupid. We recognize one of the subjects in the video is a juvenile female that's here in town. We made contact. We find out 3 subjects from Dover came here for this resident and her cousin. They only know them by Instagram usernames, conveniently. Officer First Class Williams reaches out to the county police, who utilizes their flock safety program. The car hits in Dover like 4 or 5 times. The next day, Dover recovers the vehicle. Officer First Class Williams reaches out to the Dover officer, who offers his help. He immediately recognizes the 3 subjects and identifies them. So we start our process. We arrest all 5 subjects that were involved. Probably not even a week goes by. Officer First Class Williams sees on one of our statewide DIAC alerts, there's a carjacking in Ellesmere. Well, guess who it is? Our 3 subjects. She alerts Ellesmere. We also find out, eventually, they stole a car from Dover, ended up here to meet the girls, went to Newark, got for a joyride, got in a pursuit with Newark PD, ran out of gas, evaded them, ran out of gas on I-95. They Ubered back here, and that's when they stole our residence here. So Newark also has charges. The adult female is involved in a very serious incident in Newcastle City that they're currently investigating. I'm not at liberty to discuss any further. So why are Mr. Comer and Ms. Arguaza up here? Because it was their simple ring video that something didn't look right. It was just kids playing around in a car. It was our stolen car. And that started all of this, 3, 4 agencies and a host of arrests. So I'd like to present them with the Community Service Award and a challenge point. Ladies first. proud, it's your town, and when something's done what's right. That concludes my police report.
Any questions for the chief? All right, we're gonna move on to the city manager's report.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and residents of Delaware City. First thing on my report tonight is the community center HVAC replacement project. I talked about this, I think, for a year now. Amcor submitted a fifth change order invoice to the city in Keystone. Keystone Engineering reviewed the invoice and had several questions, requesting that Amcor revisit and clarify certain items. However, upon receiving the revised change order back from Amcor, the total cost had increased with little explanation provided for the change. Our engineering firm, AECOM, has not yet received clarification from Keystone regarding who will be responsible for covering the additional costs resulting from the issue. AECOM has advised the city that they may reach out to Keystone directly to discuss the path forward. We will coordinate a meeting with Keystone as soon as possible to address this matter. Clinton and Canal Street paving project. We met with engineers from AECOM to discuss preparing the bid package for the paving canal and Clinton project. During the meeting, the estimated project cost came in significantly higher than anticipated and exceeds the available grant funding. I will be working with AECOM to revise plans in order to bring the project within budget and move forward with putting this out to bid as soon as possible. The Finn Bike Rental. A few months ago, the owner of Finn Bike Rental gave a presentation to council regarding the possibility of adding their bike rental stations to our park. Last week, Finn Bike Rental successfully installed a rental station in Battery Park and it is now fully operational. One of the key benefits of partnering with Finn Bike Rental is their mobile app, which lists Delaware City as a rental location. This increased visibility has the potential to attract new visitors who may not have otherwise known about Delaware City. The University of Delaware Grant Assistance Program. A few weeks ago, I met with representatives from the University of Delaware's Grant Assistance Program. Their program supports municipalities by identifying available grant opportunities and providing assistance with the application process. Thanks to their help and quick coordination, we were able to submit a pre-application last week for the 2025 Outdoor Recreation Parks and Trails Grant Program through DENRIC. If awarded, this grant would allow us to make much-needed improvements to our parks, basketball courts, and baseball fields, and add new, inclusive equipment that is accessible for all ages and all individuals. At this stage, it is only a pre-application, but we are committed to working diligently through the full application process to pursue this opportunity for Delaware City. In addition to this submission, we have already provided the Grant Assistance Program with several other potential projects for both the city and the police department. They are currently reviewing those projects to identify suitable grant opportunities. The Delaware City Library ADA ramp upgrade. We have officially received approval from the fire marshal and received all necessary materials for the ADA ramp upgrade. Demolition work has begun. During construction, please use the rear entrance of the community center for access. Board of Ethics, Board of Health, and the Tree Commission. We're currently seeking members to serve on the Board of Ethics and the Board of Health and the Tree Commission. If you are interested in contributing to the community by joining either board, please contact Town Hall or me for more information. We could really use quite a few more members on both boards. So if you know anyone, please share the word. I just also noted here that I submitted our CRS report, our MPDS report, and the municipal street aid affidavit. The affidavit includes the additional streets recently taken over from Ford DuPont. I attended the April 22nd Board of Adjustment meeting, May 6th Historic Preservation Commission meeting, May 14th Budget Workshop, and the May 14th Ford DuPont Board meeting. That's all. Thank you.
Brittany, what was the quotes for the paving, Clinton and Canal?
Over 600.
When we got the quote for Clinton, wasn't it in the low twos?
It was significantly lower for just Clinton, but he said because of the bonds and things that they have to put in with the bid, they expected it to come in much higher, and it came in much, much higher. Canal Street, which is what we added from the original quotes that we got, was low, was under 200 as well. So we're working together to figure out where that increase came from, because it really was a lot of Clinton
So
Street.
Clinton Street was 2 something, Canal was 2 something, but the overall bid was 6 something?
So what we do is we got the quotes from 3 companies prior to going for bid, and it came in between 150 and 200,000. That was just for Clinton. When we met with AECom, we added in Canal as well, and that came in at over 600 when they put out the bid.
Well, it's probably because of prevailing wage, but
The
when
wage
they,
and the bonds and things, but,
when they RFP, hopefully they'll come back lower. than
so
that.
yeah, we're gonna work on that to try to see what caused that huge increase.
Okay. Any questions for the city manager? All right, city solicitor report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Relatively light month, they're involved in some minor code, interpretation issues, and also one matter to consider in executive session.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the solicitor? All right, thank you, sir. Finance report?
Good evening, everyone, council and residents of Delaware City. We are at the 10-month mark on the financials, and I'm proud to say that I have, on April 29th, that was my year anniversary, so I think I've learned a lot about what happens here in Delaware City and how to manage the finances, so, it doesn't feel like it's been a year, but, it has. So we have 2 more months left in our fiscal year, and, the general fund is still operating at a surplus for now. And with 2 more months, to go, we're hoping to, close it out with a balanced budget. Hopefully nothing else will occur. Second page, non-departmental revenues, show a positive variance, mainly again due to real estate transfer taxes, and also, where I post the interest, for 2 months now, the, 3% interest on the bank accounts that got turned into, interest-bearing accounts, so that helps as well. And there's a new line, if all of you are looking at that, of the second page that I highlighted, Juneteenth with the event, they've asked us to help with their funding and hold the monies, and so we're showing a line now for the revenue coming in, and I anticipate if I have to write any checks, I'll have an expense line for it as well, so. And I'd also like to mention that the last meeting, when I mentioned the real estate taxes, and Mayor, I believe you asked, if it was the Fort DuPont, transfers. But Brittany made me aware, and I went back and looked at the detail, and some of it was due to that, so, 54,000 of it was revenue from the Fort DuPont properties on that line. But I still feel like there's more people, moving into the, city. Third page, general admin, revenues holding steady. We're still keeping our expenses well under budget, so, I think that's a good thing. Brittany and I try to work a lot on keeping things tight. However, she did just let me order a new computer since I'm having major computer issues. So that's very good, and I thank her for that. Code enforcement, the revenues are still showing higher than what we budgeted because the fines, are still being issued and collected. Expenses are well under budget as well. So, we're doing well in that department. Police department, the expenses are still under budget, and we're getting close, so with 2 more months left. Since we're going into our budget season, we may have to reevaluate some of the line items, Mike, to help with that, so that we keep you on budget under, a lot under. And then, community centers holding its own, most of the expenses are under budget. And then public works, sanitation, yard waste, stormwater, we're still well under budget with those expenses. Sanitation fee revenue, it's a little bit higher with people, requesting extra extra bins and everything for their homes when they move in. And then the page that begins with streets, drainage, Madison Monroe, park maintenance, we're still, pretty under budget for that, except for what I've mentioned before with the snow removal and everything that skewed our, street expenditures. The next page, where we're at recycling, debt service, we are still doing fairly well under budget for those expenditures. And second to the last, third to the last page, the Sally and Edie grants that, the police department uses, are covering some of their police department, expenses when they, have a call to send his people out for that. So that's a good thing. And we talked about the fire department new truck, that was just a pass-through from revenues to expenditures, which is still reflected on that page. And the cash accounts are doing really well, as I mentioned. Year to date, just in the 2 months, we've gained over $10,000 in interest for all the funds, at 3%. And some of those, you know, being grant, I mean, all of the interest goes back to, the fund, no matter what it's classified at, but that's, I mean, I think that's, that was a good idea. And, even though we started using some of the grant balances, you know, for the ADA, like she mentioned, you know, which will reduce the balances, but we're still gaining 3% interest on what's left in those accounts. And just to mention, I get the report from the bank, on the investment account, and even though, the political arena affected it for a couple months in the beginning of the year, they're indicating that, it's still showing signs of continual improvement, and we did, start gaining a little bit in the investment account again. So we're in still a little bit of a recovery on the investment account, but I mean, I'm hopeful that we're in a recovery mode as well, so. And that's the end of my report.
Quick question for me on the last page under the cash accounts. See, the community center HVAC was updated as of March 31st. Has anything been drawn down on that account since then?
No, since we're holding off, I mean, since the, issue with the community center is still not resolved yet.
No, what I'm asking is, I guess let me ask it another way. Is there any outstanding invoices out there, invoices gonna hit that balance?
Yes,
There's
only
an
the one,
invoice for the engineering services that's still outstanding, but we haven't paid.
the one,
How much is that?
7,800?
Less than 10,000.
Okay, so if we ultimately have to pay this 160 and add that in there, then what I'm asking, and what I'm getting at, is there probably gonna be a pretty good balance left over that we reallocate to this paving if we needed to?
I don't think so, because what the HVAC project at community center, it showed going over budget.
That's what I'm asking. There's 380 in there now.
Yes.
You just told me there's nothing outstanding. If we pay 170 on this new invoice, or 160 plus 10 for the engineering, that gets us to 170.
So just keep in mind that the original HVAC also included generator. So that 300 that's left, part of that was supposed to go towards the generator, which, once we just started moving forward with that bid, it's well over 500. So we never had enough allocated for the generator in the first place.
Yeah, we might have to put that on hold. Did you put in for a generator for this year under CPR?
Not under CRF funds now.
We can discuss that offline. I just wanted to get an idea.
So there is money there, but we didn't do that portion of that project, so if we're not doing that, then yes, there would be significant amount left.
Cause I just don't think we're gonna be able to come up with money this year for the generator, probably use it better, be better served for paving, in my opinion, but we can talk about that in the budget hearings. Any other questions for the finance? No, I'll entertain a motion subject to audit.
Make a motion, we accept the financial report.
I'll second it.
All right, motion is second, any further discussion? Not all those in favor? Opposed? All right, motion's carried. And I apologize, Chief, I see there you got a police award ceremony on here, if you want, we can jump down to that before you go into commission reports, if you need to, if your officers need to leave, that's fine. If you wanna do that now, that's fine.
Appreciate that, sir. Step up to the podium, please.
Tonight, I wanted to take a moment to reward our officers for some of their outstanding accomplishments in their service of our town and to you, the residents. While our officers routinely go above and beyond on a daily basis, these are incidents that have stuck out, if you will, and have received some extra attention from myself and Lieutenant Clemens. My plan moving forward is to start having an annual awards ceremony a little earlier in the calendar year for incidents from the previous year. This year, we have 2 incidents and 4 awards to bring to light and celebrate. One of them is actually from the end of 2023. If I could have Officer First Class Williams up here. First incident, as I said, actually occurred December of 2023 when Officer First Class Williams and myself responded to an overdose. Officer First Class Williams arrived on scene first and quickly assessed the victim/patient who was unconscious and with no pulse and no signs of breathing. Narcan had been previously administered but seemed to have no effect. We moved the patient to the floor and Officer Williams jumped right into CPR mode. As usual, Station 15's EMS unit responded within minutes and took over with the resuscitation efforts. These combined efforts were successful in regaining the patient's pulse and normal breathing shortly thereafter. I'm aware there are first responders in the room and that they know firsthand that minutes and even seconds can make a difference in these situations. On that day, Officer First Class Williams' swift action and effectively utilizing her CPR training made that difference. For that, I'd like to present Officer Williams with the Life Saving Award Merit Bar and Certificate. If I could have Officer Webb join us up here, please. Lieutenant Clemens coaches baseball and had an unexpected rescheduled game from all the rain last week, so it doesn't look like he was able to join us. The second incident was from April of 2024, when our department was alerted of a late reported rape where the alleged victim was known to the suspect. The victim's mother had discovered that her live-in, now ex-boyfriend, had repeatedly raped her 13-year-old daughter over a lengthy period of time. As everyone here can imagine, it was all hands on deck. As Officer Webb was the primary investigator and Officer First Class Williams assisted. Both officers put in hours of overtime and came in on their days off to coordinate with the Attorney General's office, the Child Advocacy Center, the Division of Family Services, Probation and Parole, and the Newcastle County Police Evidence Detection Unit. All this led to Officer Webb's arrest warrant, which included charges of rape first degree with a victim less than 12 years old, sexual abuse of a child by a person of trust, 2 counts of rape second degree without consent, sex offender, unlawful sexual contact against a child, continuous sexual abuse of a child, dangerous crime against a minor under 14, criminal contempt of a domestic violence protective order. After discovering he was wanted, the 35-year-old suspect, who was a registered sex offender and career criminal, informed his probation officer that he had armed himself with a handgun and would not go back to prison under any circumstances. Our agency made attempts to locate the suspect at various locations within the city of Wilmington, but we were unsuccessful. Lieutenant Clemens, who was overseeing the investigation and making sure all the boxes were checked, requested the assistance of the U.S. Marshals Task Force. Lieutenant Clemens coordinated with the task force and the Delaware State Police Special Operations Response Team. They were able to discover the whereabouts of the suspect and made a surprise visit early one morning, while graciously including both Officer Webb and Officer First Class Williams in the high-risk apprehension. The sexual predator was issued a cash bail of $250,000 in order to have no contact with any children. He was committed to the Howard Young Correctional Institute in lieu of bail. He has since submitted a guilty plea in Superior Court and is scheduled for sentencing in July of this year. I haven't confirmed it, but we've heard he will be sentenced to a minimum of 17 years. For their accomplishments in this case, I'd like to present Lieutenant Clemens, who's not here, Officer Williams, and Officer Webb, who was the lead investigator, with the Commendation of Merit Certificate and a Merit Award bar to proudly display on their uniforms. That concludes the award ceremony. I want to thank Mayor Johnson and council members for the opportunity to present these awards at tonight's meeting. I also want to thank my officers for their quality service and hard work, not from just these incidents presented tonight, but each and every day. And hopefully they keep honoring my mantra, think outside the box, make a difference, and be human. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Just want to take a minute to thank all of you. I know the lieutenant's not here, but for the entire department, I'd like to thank all of you for the work that you do every day to keep our community safe. I know it's not always, every day you hear positive feedback, but I do appreciate the work that you guys do every day. It doesn't get anywhere.
Thanks, Ed.
All right, now we're going to go back into the report of commissions, committees. I do have a couple appointments this evening. The first appointment is to Tree Commission, Grace Whitlock. What's the term for that?
3 years, I think.
All right, so it's going to be a 3-year term for the Tree Commission for Grace Whitlock. And a motion.
This is a reappointment.
Yes, reappointment.
She's currently a member.
Motion. I make a motion that we accept Grace Whitlock for a 3-year term.
I'll second.
All right, motion and second. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, you. I believe these are all reappointments as well for the Board of Health. It's Josh Ragnis, Austin Markland, Shiloh Lyons for a 2-year term. Brittany, have we reached out to these people to see if they want to be reappointed?
Yes, they all three do. Yep, everyone
Okay.
on here does.
Alright, well, okay. Alright, so we can just do one motion for all three of them if you want. For a 2-year term, for the Board of Health.
I move that Joshua Regnis, Austin Markland, and Shiloh Lyons be reappointed to a 2-year term for the Board of Health.
I'll second it.
Alright, motion and second, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alright, motion's carried. And same thing for Board of Adjustment, this is a 3-year term. It's gonna be for Raymond Gogola, Andrea Nolan, Susan Ron, Michelle McPherson. 3-year term for the Board of Adjustment.
I'll make a motion that we accept, Ramon Gogola, Andrea Norland, Susan Ron, and Michelle McPherson for a 3-year term.
I'll second.
Alright, motion and second, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alright, motion's carried, thank you. And now we're gonna go into announcements and communications. Any commissions that wanna give a report? Committees or commissions? Yes.
So I am happy to report on behalf of the Juneteenth Committee. We have started meeting last October, and we are about to launch with our first event this Saturday. We have had so many people, both from this town and elsewhere, join us. In fact, one evening, the president of the National Juneteenth Observance Foundation showed up at our meeting by telephone. So we have, in fact, put ourselves on the map as people who revere, cherish those soldiers that are buried, the UTC soldiers that are buried in our reclaimed cemetery, and in fact, all who have struggled for freedom and continue to do so. This Saturday, I hope there's enough at the back. This is our flyer that shows all of the events. And this one is the flyer that shows what happened that we are commemorating this Saturday, the Shove-Off Day. It's especially meaningful to me when we say the Pledge of Allegiance. We say, with liberty and justice for all. We kind of roll that over without thinking too much, but this is an occasion for us to think about that. With liberty and justice for all, that has been something that is unattainable for many people in our nation. Our celebration of the Juneteenth observance is a reminder that history is in fact a process, not an event. And we are in process, and I'm so pleased and proud to see the way in which we here in Delaware City honor that sentiment. So thank you so much, and especially, if I named everybody who's been involved in this, it would take the rest of the night, so I won't do that. But you all know who you are, and we are so pleased and proud that we are observing the Juneteenth observance here in Delaware City. That it honors all of us as well as those UTC soldiers that are buried in our cemetery. And if you haven't been out to the cemetery recently, I urge you to go because it is especially very pretty right now at this time of year. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other organizations? Anything for planning, Tim?
Planning had no business this month, but HPC finalized the requirements for 109 and 109A, so that should move forward.
All right.
New building on Clinton Street that looks will look very much like the old Drover's Hotel that came down where the post office is now.
All right. Let's see, Main Street, anything, Tim?
No, National Night Out, celebrating our police force, will be on the 5th of August this year, Tuesday, the 5th of August.
Delaware City Day?
We had our first meeting about 2 weeks ago, and our next meeting will be on July 10th at 6 p.m. in the Surf Board Room. We're still looking for volunteers if anybody would like to join the committee.
Delaware City Library?
So the library continues to have our teleservices specialist every Tuesday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. drop-in service. You need help with job placements, food, housing, anybody that you can refer. We don't want to lose this. It's a really important asset to our community. So please do encourage people to use that service. Obviously, Mary talked about the Juneteenth events. The first one's this Saturday at the library, beginning at 10 a.m. Please note, as Whitney mentioned, our current area is under construction, so park around back, and there are signs pointing you to where you can enter the library.
Special events, Lydia?
All right, so I'll start with Dragon Run. Our annual bus trip is coming up. We're going to be going to the Washington National Zoo on June 14th. We had sign-ups last Saturday, and we are having them again this Saturday. It is a $10 deposit per seat. You do get the deposit back the day of the trip. It is just to hold your seat. Everything else is completely free. So if you have not signed up, please come. Please come to the zoo with us. It is a lot of fun. We take you up there on the bus and we take you back. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, George, or Pam. We all can answer them, all the questions that you have. And our meetings are the second Tuesday of every month. For the food closet, we do meet the second and last Monday of every month at 6:30 behind the library. We are running low on food. We service about 25 families on average every time, and that's families, not just people. So if every family has at least 2, that's a lot of mouths to feed. So any donations are appreciated, whether it's monetary donations, canned donations, cereal, anything, we will graciously accept. We did apply for a grant with GOT. I have not heard back from them yet, but I'm hopefully soon we'll hear something where we can get some more funds. So
She texted me earlier today and asked for a copy of our W-9, so I'm assuming we're getting something. She just didn't tell me how much, so.
Perfect.
Brittany, can you email Nikisha Bailey from DOT a copy of our W-9? And then after she has that, she'll probably announce how much the award was, so.
great, yes,
Thank you.
we will take anything at this point, because it is a lot of mouths to feed, and we gotta make it through summer, since kids are gonna be home, so anything is graciously accepted, and that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Anything from the refinery? All right, any other commissions, organizations overlooked? Tim?
So we're gonna have a community update meeting for some of the projects we're doing at Fort Pond. It's gonna take place a week from Wednesday, May 28th, 6 o'clock right here in this room. It's open to everybody in the community who wants to come in. We'll probably have speaking points for about 45 minutes, but as is the case, we stay until every question is addressed.
That's perfect, thank you.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yep.
Will you still be sending out, say, emails like Fort DuPont usually does about this meeting coming up?
Yeah, the messaging starts here.
Well, I'm on the list, that's why I'd like to know when,
Yeah, we waited.
to remind this old mind, that's all.
Okay.
What's the date on that, Tim?
May 28th,
May 28th, 6 p.m.?
6 p.m.
Thank you, Tim.
All right, any other questions? All right, any other commissions or committees or organizations?
Can I relay a message from Claire, who apologizes she had another board meeting tonight. For the Tree Commission, we got our Tree City USA sign, which is now proudly displayed next to the entrance to town. The Tree Commission also trimmed the bushes that were overhanging the tree, the entryway sign into town, so that area's been tidied up. There was a question before about the trees that got planted last year that died. And Brandywine Nursery has been notified, and they've ordered replacement trees for all of those. And still looking for one more member for the Tree Commission. So anyway, that's what Claire was gonna share.
Okay. All right, anyone else? Final call, any other commissions or organizations? And Wiley's in another meeting, so there's nothing for the fire company. All right, seeing none, we'll move on. no old business this evening. We have 2 items under new business. The first one is appointing of a zoning officer with Kyle Bednar.
Okay, Mayor, I can start with that if you want, I
Yep.
guess, to have that on there. So, speaking with Kyle Friday and again this morning, we kind of adjusted the way that it's worded, on the agenda, because I put in each of your packets just a little, memo as to what this is, so I'll just read from it to start, and then I can take questions, but I said, after discussing this matter with our building code inspector, Kyle Bednar, he explained that in most municipalities, zoning officers are designated to handle zoning determinations, oversee new construction compliance, and issue zoning letters for Board of Adjustment variances. Currently, chapter 46 of our code states that mayor and council are responsible for enforcing zoning regulations. However, similar to the language used in chapter 53 regarding the roles of the building code official and the code enforcement official, we believe it would be more practical and consistent to revise and add to chapter 46 to authorize the appointment of the city manager as a zoning officer with the ability to appoint deputy zoning officers as needed. And then I just put in here the section of 53 where it talks about building inspectors and code enforcers. This change would authorize the city manager to formally appoint BIU, our current building inspection company, which already performs many of the zoning officer's responsibilities, as a deputy zoning officer. This designation would allow BIU to assist in zoning enforcement and administration in conjunction with their existing duties. We are requesting that the mayor and council vote to authorize the city solicitor to draft an ordinance amending chapter 46 to designate the city manager as a zoning officer with the authority to appoint deputy zoning officers as needed. So his request for this was because apparently in most municipalities, they have a designated zoning officer. Because there's only 3 of us in the office, there's never been really a zoning officer designated. We just review it, his office reviews it, and then if it's something that goes to planning or Board of Adjustments, we just put it on the agenda, or we consult the solicitor. This would designate a zoning officer to submit any type of zoning determinations, zoning letters for projects going to the Board of Adjustment for variances, and things like that. To me, it's basically just a formality in that process, but he feels like it should be something that's done, that's not been done for years. So I told him that I would bring it to council and see what their feelings were on this.
So I guess my initial question would be, how many zoning issues do we have to deal with that don't go to the planning commission?
So, pretty much any land use permit, anything like that, involves some form of zoning. Before we can approve any permit, we have to review the zoning and make sure that they're within setbacks, lot coverage, use regulations, things like that. We do that at town hall now, like I will do it. If there's concern or question, we usually go to the solicitor. We consult Kyle's office already, so he's kind of doing a lot of this without this designation. He doesn't submit a formal letter or get too involved in the researching and things unless we ask him to. But essentially, I think this would be where he would, if there was a zoning issue like what came up with recently at the Board of Adjustments, 109, 109A, the driveway, the setbacks, all of those things, he would have issued a letter to the Board of Adjustments from the zoning officer. And essentially, I think a lot of it too, it would be, he would do that and it would be a billable service. I mean,
Well, that's what concerns me. Here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that, you know, I know we downsized the office and kind of consolidated your land use position into the town manager position to help us save money. My thought process is, and I don't wanna overburden planning, but instead, if we're gonna make an ordinance change and update the language, should we, as opposed to this, or as an addition to this, should we potentially change planning to planning and zoning? And when those issues come into town hall, just put it on the agenda for planning and zoning.
Mr. Mayor, it's already, written up as planning and zoning.
No, understood, but from what I'm hearing is apparently it's not going to planning and zoning for those issues. Those decisions are being made at town hall, but should they be, when somebody comes in with a zoning issue, should we just refer them back to planning and zoning?
So they do go to planning typically, like, if it's something as far as an issue is, if it was gonna go for a variance or something, planning hears it. But just initial review of things, we just do that there, in town hall.
The last meeting, we had a pretty good workshop where Bill's going to be making a revision to one of the ordinances. And so I think that at the last planning committee meeting, all of us got a very good taste and feel for what our job consists of. And it was a good working session, it truly was.
I'm looking at it from the perspective of trying to save us money, obviously, but what's your thoughts, Tim?
It almost sounds like, what are we gonna call Kyle in when we need him?
So, it's, yes, when we ultimately, we do
All right,
that now.
let's say,
but-
okay, currently, or in the past, Kyle showed up for Monday for a few hours, is that what happened? He rode around town, checked, see if
Wednesday,
anything's going
a
on?
few hours.
So what happens if a resident sees a violation and reports it? Do we call Kyle in to come out and fault that? Is that what we're doing?
If
Is
it's
that
a
what we
building
will be doing?
violation, yeah, so if it's a building violation or something we feel like needs a stop work order or something like that, then yes, we call Kyle in, and he comes in to address that.
So our assistant zoning officer will be in on an on-call basis, that's what you're saying, is that correct?
So, yeah, ultimately, he would only be a part of this when we utilized him to issue any type of zoning determination. So it's essentially a zoning determination. He wouldn't review every project that comes in, I guess, unless it was one that required a variance or.
When that happens, do we pay him an hourly rate, a flat fee? What?
It would be an hourly rate, it would be their hourly rate to issue this letter.
But isn't that covered with the, enforcement officer? Code enforcement officer?
That's what we're talking about.
So,
Yeah,
you know, I don't know.
The code's something different, we're kinda talking about the zoning requirements for buildings and stuff like that, the code is basically a violation of the
Yeah,
code.
the question became if there's
So
a
what-
violation.
What's Kyle's hourly rate?
75.
Does that include driving to and from? Or is that separate?
I'm not sure, I guess however many hours.
Can we do this, Tim, do you have a meeting scheduled for planning and zoning?
Don't know yet.
Can you call a meeting?
Yes.
And put this on the agenda. Put this on the agenda and bring a report back or recommendation back to council next month to see what the thought process is on the committee.
All right, at that time, I'd like you to be there to explain in detail what you have in mind.
Yeah, so like, I mean, this was brought to me by Kyle. Actually, he's brought it to me a few times in the last year.
Do we
He
get
says
Kyle
it's-
there?
I could try, yeah, see if he could be
That'd be
available or
good.
submit something.
If you don't mind paying for that.
Well, hopefully when.
I was gonna say for free.
He may be able to submit even something in writing, he just says that it's standard that most municipalities have a zoning officer designated, and we haven't for years. He said in the past, Dave Apey, who was an engineer for the city, acted as this, but since his passing, there hasn't been one.
Yeah, I'm not so sure we called him a zoning officer, I think we just basically had a engineering firm on retainer in case something came up that was outside of the scope of the planning and zoning commission.
Yeah, I mean, I can ask him to present to planning and see.
Make an agenda for it, and we'll discuss it.
Sure.
We'll come up with.
Sure.
Alright, so can I get a, motion to table this till next month?
I have a second part to that. as
Okay,
well.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I'm sorry. So while discussing that with him, another topic came up and I wanted to bring it to you guys because it's something that will have to be done by ordinance. We are currently operating under the 2012 edition of the International Building Code. And I'm requesting that mayor and council authorize the city solicitor to draft an ordinance adopting the 2024 edition of the International Building Code, which is the most current version available. While Newcastle County is currently using the 2021 edition, our building inspectors reviewed the differences and believes they are minimal, recommending that we move directly to the latest version. Remaining on the outdated International Building Code edition is negatively impacting our annual CRS, which is our community rating system score, which in turn would affect residents' flood insurance rates. This authorization would also permit the city solicitor to work with the building inspector and city manager to to review the 2024 International Building Code in detail and propose any necessary amendments or modifications during that adoption process. So we are operating off of 2012 with amendments from the previous solicitor and city manager from years ago. When we do our CRS report, we take a big ding and score because our building code is so old. The building code we're following is so old.
Yeah, that definitely needs to be done. I guess my question for Bill would be, can we draft up this ordinance, instead of coming back, every time the IBC is updated to a new version, we're gonna have to update our code, can we just put in there that we use the latest revision from Newcastle County, so whenever they update it, our code automatically reflects that?
Yeah, the hard part about that is that the county has a whole list of exceptions to the rules, whatever they are. And I haven't looked at this from Delaware City's perspective, but if you could just adopt the code, you could do that. It's just you have to see what exceptions you have, because the new code might change those exceptions. But there may be a way to deal with that. I'll look at that, because I agree, coming back every couple, that's why these things don't get approved in timely manner, because all the exceptions to the rules and the code. And that's why people deal with the older sections and just update that. But I'll take a quick look and see what we can do to try and minimize having to revisit.
All right, perfect. All right. So still need a motion to table the appointment of the zoning officer, Kyle Bender. Someone would make that motion, please.
I move that we table the selection of Kyle Bedler as the zoning officer at this time, pending further research and implementation of the proposals as written as the city manager has proposed.
I'll second that.
All right, motion is second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion's carried. Item number 2 is discussion on chapter 51, article 3, section 51-45 for mobile food vendors.
Okay, so I also asked to have this one put on the agenda for discussion. We run into this every year, and we run into it a little more frequently, where, food trucks are questioned in the C1 district, the commercial district. Currently, the way that the mobile food vendor section of the business code reads, there's a section and it says, no mobile food vendor except ice cream trucks shall operate in a zone C1 district.
What number is that?
That is 5145 restrictions, and it is number 2.
All right.
So, it specifically says, no mobile food vendor except ice cream truck shall operate in the C1 zip district. Further down, if you look under E of that same section, if you go down to where it says E, on the back page, it says public events. And I believe under public events is where we added that to cover Delaware City Day. Although, it only says, when participating in a public event sponsored, supported by Delaware City, mobile food vendors may be located on public property. But it does not specify that in the C1, that is allowed. But it does specify none in the C1. There's public property throughout town in different zones, and I just don't feel like it specifies that it is allowed for city-sponsored events besides Delaware City, like the Christmas parade, Juneteenth events, and things like that.
Can I add to that? Am I able to add to that?
Hang on one second. Yeah. I think I know what you want to add, and on top of that, there is an issue with like private events in the C1 district, where someone would hire a food truck for their event specifically and not serve the community, only their event. Where currently with the way that it's worded, that couldn't happen. So my request is for council to look at this and decide if they would like to allow private events to have food trucks in the C1 district and change the wording to say that. And then for city-sponsored events like Delaware City Day, Juneteenth, the Christmas parade, things like that. If we're going to allow food trucks for those things, then it needs to be specified that no mobile food vendor except ice cream truck shall operate in the C1 district unless it is during a city-sponsored event. If that's what council would like to do, but I don't feel comfortable saying yes or no to these events with the way that it's worded currently. So that's why I put it on here.
So I've had a chance to go back and look at the minutes from the meeting when we passed this ordinance. The reason why this was passed is because, mobile food vendors were not permitted under the code previously. It was passed to assure that Delaware City Days was operated in conformance with the law, essentially. So we did pass this with the intent, or council passed this with the intent to, permit, as it states, public events sponsored or supported by the city of Delaware City. You could have mobile food vendors. It would be in the C1, although it would have been nice to specifically state that, but they are permitted for these specific events only. Other than these events, the only type of food vending mobile unit that would be permitted in the C1 would be an ice cream vendor. And that's the way the code, I believe, should be interpreted.
So technically, right now, if we wanted to have mobile food vendors at the community center, the way this is written, it would not be permitted?
It would be,
No, I understand that.
it's zone R1, so.
So
it
we
would-
could do it in the R1?
Yes.
Okay.
It was just about C1 because some of the brick and mortar, restaurants, they didn't wanna have the food vendors being there nonstop outside of public property. So if you may recall, if you were on council at that time, there was even an idea of permitting them on Mondays and Tuesdays because it was lesser crowd, but that was actually removed from the ordinance at that time. Because, the restaurateurs who have brick and mortar were concerned about competition from someone who drives in and takes away the.
No, understood. I mean, the first part of it's easy. I mean, as far as, because we do a lot more now than just Delaware City Day. Like, we're doing Juneteenth, we're doing the Christmas, Halloween. We could change that just to say any event sponsored by the city of Delaware City, and that'll take care of that part of it. The second part of it we have to figure out is what we're gonna do with private events. Yes.
Can we state that part where, they are allowed for Delaware City sponsored events, but not allowed to park in front of an existing, food service business
So I think.
for that particular?
Well, I
for
think
that
the
particular
public
event?
property portion covers that, because they would be in the park, so they wouldn't be like right in front of a business, they would be on public property.
Okay, they would have to be over
So
in the park.
5145 says, no mobile food vendor shall be located within 100 feet of the primary entrance of a restaurant. So that's in there. I think that it needs to say for events, for public events sponsored by Delaware City can be permitted on public property, and I think it needs to say in the C1, because it specifically says not in the C1. I think somewhere, if we're gonna let it be in the C1, I think that it should say that, because when I read through it, public events just says located on public property, but it still says not in the C1. So I think it either needs to say not in the C1 except during a city-sponsored event, or in public events, it needs to say located on public property provided, or located on public property in the C1, in all zoning districts, or whatever. But,
Well, I mean, I'm okay with changing it to only in the C1 unless it's a city-sponsored event, but then we run into the issue where, which I'm sure that you were getting ready to ask that question, what if we have a vendor in this, or what we have a business in the C1 and they wanna bring in a vendor that complements their business? This would prohibit them from doing it.
They're not selling to the public, they're only catering for their event.
No, understood, but they're still not allowed to do that the way this is written.
Right.
you mean the private event?
Yeah, like.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think we need to address that too.
Yeah.
I think they both.
As long as I would be okay with putting in vendors, mobile food vendors for a private event, as long as it's catering their event or their business.
Right.
I'm okay with that.
Well, that's something we would need to clarify in the code to show,
do they
like, a
have to-
private business wants to have let's just say, it's almost like having a caterer come to a private business that's not open to the public, however. So would not, the public could not utilize a mobile food business, because that's inconsistent, but we probably have to state that they could have a mobile food truck for their private event, essentially being a caterer, essentially for that event only and not open to the public.
No,
I agree.
Yeah, now does that mobile vendor have to get a, Delaware City
Still
business
gotta get a
license?
permit, yeah, they still have to get all the
Still have to
permits,
get a
the
permit and a
licenses,
business license.
absolutely.
Okay.
Can I go one step further with this?
Yep.
One, who would be able to enforce the new codes? How do you know somebody isn't gonna go up to these trucks outside of the so-called designation where they're supposed to be and still selling to the rest of the public? Personally, when I came on council, I came on council to protect our local businesses.
Yeah.
And if this is taking any kind of defective, routine that will hurt one of our private businesses, then I'm totally against it. I'm sorry, but I'd rather promote what we have here, not somebody just comes in for a fly-by-night issue or whatever you want to categorize it. But I don't think this is a smart idea to change that one bit right at this point. Special occasions, Delaware City Day, Juneteenth. If that's what's going to happen, then okay, that's fine. But the private thing, I'm not sure somebody's going to be able to enforce it.
I think that'd have to be left up to the,
Well, it's gotta be,
owner of the venue.
it's gotta be left up to the business owner.
Yeah, the business that they strictly are forbidden to sell anything, to anyone in public.
All right, I'll give you an example. The Canal Hotel right now has a lot of private occasions. But yet again, a food truck, where's it gonna park? Right there on Clinton Street, right in the middle there. And to be honest with I'm gonna put it out straight, I do not trust a food truck. I've been around a million of them, and regardless of what we put out there, somebody's gonna get, oh, there's a food truck. And then what's it doing? It's taking away from the restaurant businesses that are established in this town.
Well, I mean, that is the issue. The issue is that the food truck or business on the main drag is gonna have to park on public property unless they can go around back and somehow.
Where's public property in C1?
Well, that's the issue. There's not any. That's why I think.
The only one is the
question
park.
For council to
It's the park.
decide.
Just the park gets in.
And what are they gonna do, park on the grass?
We have hard enough time with car shows.
I mean, I'm sorry, if it's gonna hurt our businesses, I'm stone cold against it.
Yeah, I don't think that's the intent. I think the intent is to try to make sure we have everything covered, so if a business did want to bring in some type of special cater or special event, just for their business or their event, they're not prohibited from doing that.
Maybe they should.
All right, now you
sign
can talk
that
two
saying-
different stories now. A food truck's outside of the place that the whole thing's going on now, right? But if it's catered, it's taken inside, it's not actually being able to be sold to the actual public just walking down the street.
Maybe they should have to put a sign up saying, private
No,
event.
so you-
Or have them just cater it inside.
Do we wanna hear from the
Yeah.
young lady that has?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I'm Nicole, I, am the business owner for the event space in the Central Hotel building. This is my first actual meeting, because I'm a business owner and a mom, and very present with my family. As far as answering your questions is regarding the food trucks, typically, they cater the event. So half the time, actually 75% of the time, they cook on site in their actual truck, and they bring the food into the building, and they go ahead and display it on the buffet thing. Now, the other 25% of the time, there's no public coming up to, or at any point in time, they are literally private events, there's no cash being handled, there's nothing thrown across the countertop at all. They're a predetermined menu for their guests to come out, eat the food, and go back inside. So to answer that question, as far as parking goes, they park right outside the space. If a catering company was to come in and they bring their employees with them, they actually pick up more parking spaces than the food truck coming in.
That's not my point.
I'm
The
trying
parking
to-
has nothing to do with my point
That just
whatsoever.
was an add-on.
So that was unnecessary in my book.
That was an add-on.
All right,
Does parking?
But-
kind of come up?
I'm sorry. You can't convince me. I'm not going against the businesses in this town.
It's not against the business, and honestly,
The business
my
that-
entire livelihood. and
I'm talking about the food service business. That's what it goes against.
It does not. Krabby Dicks.
We disagree then.
You're right, because all of my information that goes out is to support every single one of these businesses. Not only to the 100 people that come through my door weekend, they all get information to go to 17, information to go to Cake Sisters, Sunday 64, they're open, Kathy's Crab House, Krabby Dicks, the ice cream shop. 100 people a week, I give this information out to. My own livelihood is literally spent at Sabatina's, Cake Sisters, and Krabby Dicks. I literally get my wellness and everything done with Winnie. I get my dog groomed at the grooming dogs. I spend so much money in this town because I support this town and I support small businesses. I would not do anything that would go against or upset anybody. And I'm surprised, Bucket's driven by my place millions of times, and he's never once stopped to say anything about it.
I don't have any objections.
Oh, hey.
I'm here. I have more objections to the ice cream truck.
Well, let's tackle one thing at a time. John, what's your thoughts on the mobile vendors for private events?
For private events, I don't have any objections, as long as, I mean, the parking issue, I'm not up there anymore. When I had the Lewinsky's, it would have been a nightmare.
Right.
But, you know, I don't think Sabatina's opens at night, so I think your events are at night.
Majority of them during the daytime, I'd say they're brush hour, baby shower, graduation.
Could they make a food truck around on the other side?
So the back has been explored. The reason why we had difficulty with putting it in the back of the building last year was because there was a resident that had a truck, another truck, and then had a trailer attached to that truck, and they parked right around that curb right there. So we could not put it back there. I'm not against putting it back there at all. One of the reasons is I was one that, and then we had it right outside the door, because it's convenient for guests to walk out, especially if it's raining, you guys have to go back inside.
Can I just make one quick recommendation, and I'll get to you next, Dale. What my thought process is, and what I think we should be doing is, honestly, I think all this should be vetted through Main Street, since they represent all the businesses, and then.
No, they don't.
And
No,
then
they
Main
don't.
Street.
No, they don't.
They don't have meetings, Paul.
Well,
let's.
the way it's set up, this should go through Main Street, so all the businesses are in agreement and bring a recommendation back to council.
FDS.
Dale?
Not even a nonprofit anymore.
What was your,
Well, I mean, I'll go back to the food trucks. I mean, I don't think that the issue is with the social. I mean, you gotta be careful how you word that ordinance, because you say a private event, if somebody's having a family reunion in their house on Clinton Street, or, you know, upstairs in their apartment, and they would put a food truck out on Clinton Street for their private event, how do you distinguish between her legitimate business and someone just saying they're having a family reunion or having a birthday party or a food truck parked on the street? You know, that's just how you have to word that ordinance.
Understood.
Maybe an established business could do it, I don't know. I don't wanna open a crack that gets bigger and bigger.
Bill, hearing everything that's been discussed, do you have any recommendations to change and or update this code, or how do you think we should proceed?
Well, when we passed the last ordinance, I'm not sure that the specific issue was addressed, but we're happy to make a minor amendment. We just wanna make sure input from restaurant people, brick and mortar people, because I think when this ordinance passed a couple of years ago, I think that was a primary concern, not to affect brick and mortar restaurant people. So your input on how you feel about this is helpful, because it is a private event. It sounds like it's something where the people who were there would only be the only people utilizing that. I mean, I think that's the concern that we had. We wanted your input, because you have a restaurant on the strip there. So your input is very valuable to what we're trying to process here today.
And if need be, we can certainly schedule a public hearing before the next meeting, or we can do a public hearing outside of the mayor and council meeting to get all the business feedback. I'm perfectly fine with that.
I would agree with that.
I'm fine with that.
So I got a question. The lady with the Central Hotel. So you're having weddings down there.
Yes,
You're having private people come in.
Yes.
John has his business down the street. He's okay. You wanna put a food truck up for this wedding for a couple hours on a Saturday night. And your people will come in, they won't spend any money. I mean, you'll pay them all yourself. You know, no people can walk by and buy the food. It'll be strictly for your event.
Correct.
And we'll be taking no profit from any of the other people in town that have businesses. This will just be for the wedding and church event.
That's all.
And that's all we need. And John Dale, you're okay with that?
I'm okay with that. Yeah, there's no factory taxes, there's no Venmo handles, there should be no handles, anything like that, it's all prepaid. And like I said, it's all handled through the client, they are given specific instructions about this, and they know that that is the thing. I'm sorry for the clarification of this, because, for the past several years, we had, I guess there was a meeting, I guess that was, who was at the studio, I think Lynn was present, Scott was present, Austin, Winnie, Matt at the time, making a sickle of people, and Baylor there? Okay. So it was said at that point in time that what we were doing was okay. So I was not aware that this was not a clause that was put into the amendment last time.
All right, well, we can schedule a public hearing just on this topic. The problem that I see right now is we're not gonna get these changes done before Delaware City Day, or, well, we may get it done before Delaware City Day, but certainly not for Juneteenth, so I think we should just direct it.
Do you have any weddings scheduled that we could need exemptions for before coming up?
3 or 4 food trucks that come within a season. We just had a wedding the other day, they didn't use a food truck.
Okay.
And a lot of them either have drop-off catering, or they have service catering, or they have somebody, like I said, coming on site and making the food, like the food truck way.
As far as the public events, I think we just give the city manager direction to proceed with Delaware City Day and Juneteenth the way we've done in the past until we get this resolved. Because if not, we're gonna shut the vendors down, and we don't wanna do that.
No.
What if we, for the time being, while we are working on drafting this ordinance or changing the ordinance, we allow her to come to City Hall, whether it's a permit, just stating that I'm having a food truck, they won't be selling to the public, just so town approves it and.
I had to defer that to the city solicitor, but that's a legal question.
Suspended for special.
Right,
Suspend the ordinance for special occasions for a particular vendor.
well, it's not, we need to do an ordinance, it'll take a month, 6 weeks to get done, right, or two meetings.
Two meetings, yeah.
So, it's a practice that was allowed, sounds like there's representation that is permitted.
Yeah.
I think while we're doing this, I think there's some reliance on some representation, perhaps was made in the past to let this continue until we get this ordinance. But if the ordinance somehow comes back and says no, then that's practice has to stop. But council will have to make a decision after that, but during the next 2 months while this is going on, it probably it's not code compliant, but the fact is, there's an event scheduled, there's a representation being made that it was approved. I don't think it would be proper to say no.
I agree.
If people were here today, rioting over this, I mean, we are driven somewhat by public input. We have prominent restaurateurs here today who I think will be key to the future discussion on this, so I would say let it continue until this ordinance passes for the next 2 months.
And I'm happy to reach out and clarify and find out exactly which of our event people have hired, food trucks, and bring that information to you. My only concern is, again, having food trucks does not affect my business, it does not affect my income. What it will affect is anybody who's already contracted with a food truck at this time, and then losing a deposit or anything of that nature, and that's just what I would like to avoid at this point.
No, understood. All right, so if council's good, what I'm gonna propose is next month we start at 5:30, we'll do a 1-hour public hearing just on this topic, and then we'll get 6:30, we'll go right into the mayor and council meeting. Is everybody scheduled good for that? Can you make that go?
I definitely can. Should we prepare like some sort of ordinance or introduction?
Yeah, I would, yeah, just do a draft, and then depending on what comes out of the public hearing, we can just make changes right there on the fly.
Exactly.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep.
We'll have something for the next meeting to be considered.
Yep, perfect. All right, so it was for discussion only, so we don't really have to take any action on that, so we're gonna move into, member council comments.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I want the public to be fair with everyone.
Well, I just,
That was my whole point.
we don't want you to get mad, buddy.
All right,
No, I'm not mad.
Councilman Dudley,
Adamant, but not
For
married.
comments,
comments?
Mary, about this Juneteenth, I want to say, as a resident of Delaware City, a longtime resident, you guys did a great job, made me proud last year. I'm excited for this Saturday and all the good stuff you guys are doing, and you make us proud, Mary, you really did good. Thank you, Tom.
All right, Councilman Turley.
Still waiting on 2 or 3 letters of support for this T-Mobile grant that we could use to work on the sidewalks. It's due by June, so we're getting close, and I'm bugging people for letters of support.
All right. Councilman Roberts.
No comment.
Bill Clean.
Yeah, I attended a couple of commission meetings this month. HPC in particular, we had a situation where a builder's coming in to put 2 houses on a lot across the street from us. Their designs were completely unacceptable, and they at first thought they were going to kind of bully their way in and get what they wanted, but HPC did such a great job in upholding the principles of what we do, and turned them away from putting in 2 garages in the front and driveways to reworking their building to be absolutely beautiful. And it's gonna look gorgeous in town, but they really did an outstanding job. I'm so proud of them. I mean, when I left HPC, I knew they were gonna do a great job, but this was a really big test of the commission and of everything that we stand for. And
Could I add
what we
something
have
to that?
going in is gorgeous.
Because, I wanna add something to that, because both all 3, the Planning Commission, the Board of Adjustment, HPC, all functioned, I believe, as we hoped they would function.
Yes, yes.
I think they all.
really did.
Followed the code, and the developer came in here, he actually, I think, came in the second time with a similar design. I was like, what are you doing here? And, the product that's gonna come out of this is just gonna be totally awesome, particularly compared to what it was when it first came in, which would have been stuck out like a sore thumb, but all 3 boards, I thought, did exceptionally well, analyzing the issues very thoroughly, so my hats off to all 3 of them for the way they handled that. A couple meetings at each, but the end product is gonna be great, and the bottom line is, those houses are gonna be built, gonna be there for 100 years or 200 years, so if you allow something to slip through like that, you're gonna be stuck with it. But
Yeah,
I
they
think
really did an outstanding job, and I applaud all 3 of the commissions. So.
Great. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. A couple things that I had, we started the FY 26 budget hearings. We had the first one last week. The focus for this year operating budget is obviously we want to keep all the core services intact with no tax increases. Any extra money that we have is going to be allocated to try to bump up hours for the code enforcement officer. We only have a code enforcement officer working limited hours, and there's just not enough time to get all the issues resolved. And the other focus is going to be on supporting the police department. Whether we need more part-time, more hours for overtime, whatever they need to operate, the way they need to operate the most effectively. So they're going to be the 2 main points this year with the FY 26 budget. We talked about the second annual Juneteenth celebration, which is exciting. Last year was very well attended. I'm looking to hopefully exceed those attendance expectations this year. And finally, we were awarded $300,000 from the General Assembly through the CTF fund, the Community Transportation Fund. That will also be used for some of the paving projects. So between that and what we have in some of our accounts, I mean, I'm confident we'll be able to figure out how to get Clinton and Canal Street done. So, and then we'll see, hopefully, sometime around June, we'll see if we're awarded anything for what Brittany submitted for this year. So that would take place after July 1st. So that concludes my report, and we're going to move into citizens' comments. Tim?
Just a comment.